I want to review the process of cutting out an image, cutting the background away from the image, and then putting that image in a new environment, with a new background, new elements around it. Here I've opened an image of the Spirit of St. Louis, which is hanging in the actual Spirit of St. Louis is hanging in the Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian in Washington. And this is a picture taken from the second level across at the plane that's hanging from a very high ceiling. Now, this image then is, I can get it off the internet, or I can take it, I've taken pictures myself of that plane, and I want to use it for a cutout purpose. So once I have it on the internet, then I download it to my hard drive and then open it in Photoshop. And I have it then sitting in Photoshop, the entire image. Now, when I bring it in, I also go to the image size, and I check to see what my size is. I always make it something of 7, unless I want a very large pixel thing, or it's going to go in a small catalog, then I might go 4 inches. But width or height of 7 inches. And whatever the height comes to, this is locked together over here with this chain and grip thing, so that if I have it at 15 inches and I make it at 7, the height will come at proportionate. And then I change my resolution from whatever it was, 72 to 400, so that I have that image as big and useful as I can make it. I OK that, and then I have my image here. Now I might also look at the image adjust and levels, and I could take the levels, bring in some more light or some more mid-range, and adjust this so that the image, what I'm seeing is I can see into the dark areas. Now the lighting here is not terrific because there's a roof overhead, and so it's not direct lighting. Then I have the picture here ready to start to cut out, and I have the background is locked, so I'm going to click on the word background and just change it to plain. And now it's unlocked and it's workable. I'm also going to come over here to my color box in the tools, and the blue there, I'm going to pick a nice bright orange. And then in creating a new layer down here in the layer menu, I'm going to say layer 1, let's make that option delete, puts the foreground color in, and it's in front, so I'm going to drag it down so it's behind. Now I use orange as a backdrop to start with because it's easy to see the orange to the line. Now back on the layer plane, I'm going to do a quick cut where I take my Polygonal Lasso tool. My feather is at 1. Be sure and check that, because if it's at 0, it gives you too hard an edge. If it's 5 or 6, it gives you way too soft an edge. So it should be at 1 when you're doing this cutting. And then I'm going to do what I call a rough cut, where I start at some point and come close to the plane. I'm not trying to cut it out just yet. I'm coming across here and doing the outer image so that I don't have so much to cut away when I come back and actually do the fine-tuned cutting. But I'm going to come up here. Now notice the tail of that plane hangs just a little bit out of the picture, so I'm going to have to build that back in. I come out of the picture with my cut line, but when I come back to the start, that little circle shows up and I click on it. I get the marching ants, but I don't want to cut away the plane, so I go up to, it's got the positive space trapped. I go up to select and say inverse, and now it has all this negative space trapped, and I just hit the delete key, and I'm on the plane layer, and then when I hit the delete key, I see through down into this orange layer. Now I take my Command D, takes off the marching ants. I'm going to take my zoom tool, and I'll get in here kind of close in and begin to cut things away with my Polygonal Lasso tool. I'll start here in the middle and just come to an edge and cutting down the back side of the airplane wing. It's click and release, click and release, click and release, and you have to be judging what's there. Now I see some things that aren't part of the wing. It's part of the structure of the museum, and I want to make sure that I don't cut away plain, but I don't leave anything there. Now a lot of times you're going to go into here and find straight lines, and that's fine. I'm going to close back on this one and delete that out. Now I see I've got one little space in here that I have to fiddle with, and That's where that strut, wing strut is coming up, and just be as careful as you can as you go around. There isn't really a shortcut to doing this. You have to cut it out. There's no magic wand. Let me go over here, like coming down the top edge of this wing. I get to this point, and there's a structure that's actually on the plane. It's a little device that helps in those days, the technology to measure airspeed. And sometimes the planes will have an antenna. Now that is there. This device right here, you might want to study before you start cutting it away, is part of the cabling system that actually hangs the plane from the ceiling. I don't need that because I want the plane to look like it's flying, not hanging. So I come down around the second antenna or device thing there, and then continue on with the plane. And now when I get down here, if you just touch to the side, it'll slip over a ways for you. When I get down into this area, I've got to go carefully around the exhaust manifold for the circular engine. And I've got to just carefully make my way around. There are some little things that stick out here and there. This plane isn't as aerodynamic as some of our more modern airplanes. And I come around. Now don't try to cut the whole thing out all at once because you can run into trouble with that. I like to just take chunks out of it. Now I can stop here at the propeller and come back up in the top here and delete that. There is a little tiny space showing through here that you have to cut out. Now if you need to get bigger with your magnifying tool, do that. There's a little space right here that you have to cut out. And when you get a piece cut out, if you just take your tool and click inside the marching ants, it takes the marching ants away, or Command D will take the marching ants away. So cutting around in the propeller, you have some little spots in here to cut out. There's a wire and a strut right here that you have to cut out. Notice here that there's the structure that holds the support for this lower wheel. Here's the strut, and then when you're over here, you come down and you see part of that tire right there. And then what looks like the same color almost is actually the marble on the distant wall. And so you just trim there and cut away and cut away, cut away. When you get to the back side of the plane, remember I said that there was a problem here with the tail, and we'd have to mend the tail because it's just a little bit of it's hanging out there. Let me show you how I would handle that. For one, I would probably take the whole plane, turning on the arrow tool and making sure your show transform controls on, and I would move the plane, just nudge it forward a little bit, or even reduce it in size a little bit. Just take the scaling tool with the shift key and reduce it down just a touch. Sizing later we can make it happen, but back here on the tail then I got some room to work. Now see, I look back there and I say I'm getting even closer. See, just that part is cut out, and if let me cut away the part of the wing here, and you'll see what I'm doing. As I come around the edge here, I can see that the photograph is just nipped off a portion of that tail, and as the wing comes back to the body of the aircraft, then you come back around here and cut that off. Now, while there's a lot missing, I'll delete that part. You can see there's just a little bit missing, so I'm taking the clone stamp and get it in a smaller size brush, and I'll come in here and I'll just take a shot over here, this sort of greenish gray, and just build a little tail out here. Just finish that off. Now that doesn't look right because there's a little bit of overspray, so I'm going to come back here and then I'm going to cut out and just make that round turn. I have to interpolate, but I can tell where the tip would have been, and you see I'm going to cut off that sort of overspray. And when I hit delete there, then I've got the tail fixed. Some other places here you have to sort of interpolate is the skid down here. There is a skid that comes off the bottom of the airplane that has some braces on it, and then it comes down and it has a metal plate on the bottom that helps it. There's not a wheel there, it's just a skid. And then there's a brace that comes back up here to the plane body that's braced to. And then on the inside there's the rest of the bracing is metal here, and it braces itself. There's some mechanical way that is attached to the airplane. and you get that out of it. So sometimes you have to interpret and look closely at your original picture. Now, I'm not going to take the time at this moment to go all the way around the plane, but that's how that's going to happen. When I get through with the plane, I now have it all cut out. There it is with everything cut out, the tail repaired. One other thing I did is I shut the door. See the door right here? Here, I've made a new door. There's the door open, and there's the door closed. I virtually copied the door, and with the aid of the file transform distort tool, I stretched that door that I made. I pulled it a little out, and because the door is open, so it's a different angle, so I pulled and pulled and pulled it and fit it in that space so that it now fits in that space. And you can see, and I changed the tone. It was a little different color because it was catching light from someplace. So I changed the color by going to Image, Adjust, and Color Balance. And I added a little blue on this top and a little blue on the bottom, so it got a little bluer instead of more of a golden color. So that was how to put the door back together. So now I have it as a cutout, and eventually I'm gonna weld the door, right? I'm gonna merge the door with the plane so it's all one unit. Now, from another source, I've got this picture of the seacoast. I'm gonna build a book cover that has to do with Lindbergh's plane flying out over a coastline as if it was heading from New York to the Atlantic to over Ireland and England and into France and landing in Paris. So there's a dreary morning shot of an ocean, and to that I brought in my airplane and sized it here in the middle of the page, added the titling, a book called One Way. I made it one word but two colors. Subheadline, Getting to Point B. In other words, you take off from point A and you have to go to point B. That's one way. And then the author, his name is here centered just below the horizon line. I cut away the sky of that earlier picture. You see, it's for one thing, the coastline wasn't, the horizon line wasn't straight, and I needed more sky, so I just cut this away and added more sky. So that here's my layer that actually is the background. The canvas layer, the new book size is 9 inches high by 7 inches wide. So you can see I went to my layer here 3, and under Image, Canvas Size, I made it 9 by 7 and pushed it up so that it was going to go to the overage was going to go to the top. And then when I have, there's the picture of the seacoast with the sky cut away, and then I've added new sky to it. So here are all the elements in layers, and you'll see that as you can open this layer. It's in your file on this subject of cutting out, but it gives you then the information, sizes that you're going to select and placement you're going to select. The plane itself had a bit of a gold tone as light coming through the windows, and the windows are yellowed or gold windows, and that tone shows up on the stainless steel hood covering, cowl covering. And so in the background picture I've added some yellow. I went up to Image, Adjust, Color Balance, and I slid in some yellow and a little red that changed some of the features in here to be a little more sunny, as if the sun was actually shining down here on a early morning flight out over the ocean. I think he took off in clouds and rain, but we can have some judgment with that. So that's the review of cutting out an object. Now you could cut out another plane and have it going the other way. You could cut out a person and standing here. I don't know, we have a color picture of Lindbergh in his flight suit, but it just depends on how much you want to cut out. But take your time, use that Polygonal Lasso tool, and do it carefully the first time so that it looks good all the time.